I was halfway through a 10-hour drive when the rain started. Not the gentle kind. This was the sort that feels like someone's dumping buckets onto your windshield, every drop exploding against the glass like static. My GPS froze somewhere around the county line, right before I lost cell service. I hadn't seen another pair of headlights in almost an hour. When I spotted the sign that said "Last Gas" for 30 miles, I didn't even think twice. The road curved sharply and dropped into a small valley where a few dim streetlights glowed in a way that made everything look sepia-toned. The place didn't even look real, just a single road cutting through a town that shouldn't still exist. The gas station was straight out of the 70s. 2 old pumps, the kind with spinning numbers, and a flickering fluorescent sign that hummed loud enough to hear over the rain. There was a convenience store attached, but the windows were too dark to see inside. I parked under the awning, stepped out, and immediately felt the wrongness of the air, like the smell of wet earth mixed with something metallic. I went to grab the nozzle, but there was no credit card reader, just a slit where cash should go. I stood there like an idiot for a second before hearing the faint sound of a door creak open. "Pump 3's working," a voice said. I turned and saw an old man standing under the store's overhang, cigarette glowing between his fingers. He didn't have an umbrella or even seemed to notice the rain soaking through his jacket. His eyes caught the light weirdly, like they reflected too much of it. "Thanks," I said, trying to sound casual. "You guys open late?" He just smiled. "We don't close." That's when I noticed there was no Pump 3, only 2. I didn't say anything, just forced a laugh and pretended to check my phone for signal. No bars. When I looked up again, the man was gone. The cigarette butt he'd dropped was still burning on the wet concrete. I don't know why, but I got back in my car and locked the doors. The rain hit harder, like the storm had been waiting for me to stop. I sat there for maybe a minute, maybe 5, staring at the glow of the station lights reflecting off the windshield. Then something moved behind the counter inside the store. Not a person. Taller. It leaned forward slowly, pressing against the glass from the inside, and for a split second, I swear I saw a face staring back at me, pale, almost featureless, except for a wide red smile drawn across where its mouth should have been. When I blinked, it was gone. That's when I noticed the pump handle hanging from my car, dripping with something too dark to be rain. The rain eased up just enough for me to see the road ahead, long, cracked asphalt stretching into a grid of empty streets. I figured if there was a gas station, there had to be a town nearby, maybe a diner, maybe someone who could tell me how to get back to the interstate. But as I drove past the first intersection, something felt wrong. No street signs, no parked cars. Not even trash bins or mailboxes, just houses, small ones mostly, lined up neatly like teeth in a jaw, all painted the same shade of dull beige, the kind of color that used to be white a long time ago. And the lights, that's what got me. Every single porch light was on, every single one, but not a soul outside. I slowed down and rolled the window halfway, just to listen. The engine idled too loud, the rain hit too soft, and beyond that, nothing. Not even crickets. The air felt thick, like sound itself didn't want to exist here. At the corner of what might have been Main Street, a general store stood with its windows covered in dust. A paper "Open" sign hung crookedly, half torn like it had been there for decades. The neon clock inside read 9:14, but my phone said 11:27. I parked, stepped out, and started walking. The street lamps buzzed quietly, giving off that sodium glow that makes everything look sickly.
I swear I could smell something faintly sweet, like rotting fruit or maybe perfume left too long on old clothes. That's when I saw her. In a house across the street, 2 stories, curtains yellowed with age, there was a woman standing at the window. She looked normal, maybe in her 30s, wearing a pale dress that could have been white once. She was waving, slow, deliberate, like she'd been waiting for me. I froze. My first thought was, finally, someone's here. So I raised my hand back, unsure, and crossed the road. But as I got closer, I noticed something off. The reflection in a window didn't match the angle of the street light. Her hand kept waving, same motion, same rhythm, but her face didn't move at all. When I reached the porch, the smell hit harder, that same metallic tang from the gas station. I knocked once. The echo felt too loud. No answer. I leaned to the side, tried to peer through the window. That's when I realized the glass wasn't reflecting light at all. It was painted black from the inside. No woman. No one. Just the faint outline of a handprint on the other side. 5 long fingers pressed into the dried paint, as if someone had tried to claw their way out. I stepped back, heart pounding, when I heard a faint buzz behind me. Looked up. Every porch light on the street had flickered at once, then again. Then all went dark. And in that sudden silence, I swear I heard a whisper, not words, just breath, right behind my ear. You shouldn't have waved back. I turned, but the street was empty. Only my car headlights still burned through the fog. And in their beam, across the road, the front door of that house had quietly swung open.
By the time I saw the motel sign, the rain had turned into a mist that felt like breathing through wet cotton. The glowing red letters buzzed faintly. Vacancy. A single-story strip of rooms stretched along the road, half of them dark, half flickering with weak yellow light. There was one car parked out front, an old Buick with no plates. Its doors were locked, but the windows were fogged from the inside, like someone had been sitting there just a moment ago. The office door was propped open with a cinder block. Inside, the air smelled of lemon cleaner and mildew. A small TV on the counter played static. Behind it, a woman sat completely still, her hands folded neatly on the desk. She had bright red lipstick, drawn on too wide, like she was trying to remember how a smile was supposed to look. "Evening," I said, dripping all over her linoleum. "Room?" she asked, her voice soft, automatic. "Yeah, just for the night. My GPS died. I'm trying to get back to Route 19. Her eyes didn't quite meet mine. She turned, grabbed a brass key from the wall, not a card, an actual key, and slid it toward me. "Number 7. I pulled out my wallet. "How much?" She didn't answer, just stared at my hand until I took it back. There was an old register beside her, open to a blank page. No names, no dates, just the faint imprint of something written long ago. I thanked her and left before she could say anything else. The hallway outside the office had the same smell, disinfectant, but underneath it something sweet and rotten. Room 7 was at the end. The carpet squished faintly as I walked. When I opened the door, the light came on by itself. The room looked cleaner than I expected. Bed made tight, floral curtains, a framed photo of a lake. But there were 2 suitcases on the floor, both open, clothes still folded neatly inside, men's and women's. Dusty,
but not old enough to be forgotten. I checked the bathroom. Toothbrushes, a half-used bar of soap. The mirror was cracked, splitting my reflection right down the middle. When I came back out, the TV had turned itself on. Snowy static, just like the one in the office. I unplugged it. The sound didn't stop. It was coming from the vent above the bed. I climbed onto the mattress and peered through the grate. Only darkness, but I could swear something was moving inside, a shadow twitching against the light. Then, click, the sound of a door handle. I turned toward the hallway. Someone was walking slowly past my door, heels on carpet, measured, steady. They stopped right outside. Silence. Then, 3 soft knocks. I froze. "Yeah?" I managed to say, voice cracking. No answer. When I finally opened the door, the hallway was empty, but the vacancy sign outside had changed. The neon buzzed, one letter dead, so it now read vacant. I swear it was complete when I checked in. I closed the door, locked it, and turned off the light. But through the thin wall I could hear something. Not footsteps now, but whispering. 2 voices, a man and a woman. Over and over, the same phrase. Check-in complete. Then laughter, slow, broken, like a recording warping in rewind. I didn't sleep. When the sun finally rose, I looked out the window. The old Buick was gone. Only a dark, wet patch where it had been, shaped roughly like 2 bodies lying side by side. By morning, the fog had swallowed most of the road. The motel looked smaller in daylight, like a cardboard model left out in the rain. The woman at the front desk wasn't there anymore. Just the TV still playing static, the register still open on that blank page. I left the key on the counter and stepped outside. My car was damp, the windshield smeared with something oily. When I wiped it off, I noticed a photograph tucked under the wiper, a small, square Polaroid, edges curling. It showed me standing beside my car, right there at the gas station from last night. Only the photo looked old. Faded colors, that yellowish tint Polaroids get after decades. And behind me, just barely visible in the blur of light, that same old man with the cigarette. I turned the photo over. No writing. But the paper felt soft, almost warm, like someone had been holding it a moment ago. I tossed it onto the passenger seat and started the car. The radio crackled to life, even though I hadn't touched it. A man's voice, low and distant, saying something I couldn't quite catch. Then it faded into static again. The GPS was still dead, so I followed the only road out of town. It wound past an empty diner, a post office, a few boarded-up shops. Every window I passed had curtains drawn, except one. A kid was standing there, maybe 10 years old, pale as chalk. He was holding a Polaroid camera, the kind that spits out film instantly. He didn't move as I drove by, just lifted the camera and took a picture of my car. I glanced in the rearview mirror. No kid, no house, just fog. About 10 minutes later, the road forked. Left went uphill toward what looked like a water tower. Right dipped into a wooded area. I took the right, figuring it would lead to the highway. But after 5 minutes, I saw something that made my stomach turn. The same last gas for 30 miles sign. Rusted, leaning, rainwater dripping down the letters. I slammed on the brakes. Somehow, I'd driven in a loop. I checked the odometer, 6 miles, but the fuel gauge hadn't moved. I got out, holding the photo again, comparing the background. The gas station, the clouds, the angle, everything matched exactly. Except for one detail. In the photo, the sign behind me didn't say "Last Gas," it said "Welcome Back." That's when I heard tires crunching behind me. I turned. Another car, same make and model as mine, pulling up beside me on the shoulder. The driver's window rolled down. And there I was. Same face, same jacket, same confused look. Only his mouth was moving, whispering something I couldn't hear. I backed away, stumbling into the fog. The sound of my car door opening echoed behind me, followed by a single camera click. When I turned again, the second car was gone. But on my driver's seat, where the photo had been, there was another Polaroid. This one showed me, eyes wide, mouth open, standing in the fog, just as I was now. The caption written below in messy black ink: "Don't look behind you."
I drove until my hands cramped around the steering wheel. The fog thinned, but the road only grew stranger, narrower. The asphalt cracked open like something underneath had been trying to crawl out. The town kept repeating itself in small, disjointed ways. Same diner, same gas station, same row of houses, rearranged like someone was shuffling pieces of a memory. Then I saw the church. It stood alone at the end of a gravel path where the road just stopped. The building leaned slightly to one side, its steeple cracked at the tip. The front door hung open. No cross anywhere, just an empty metal frame where one should have been. For a while I sat in the car, engine idling, watching the doorway breathe in and out with the wind. Every instinct told me not to go inside. But the fuel gauge was still full, the clock on my dash was stuck at 3:11, and there was nowhere else to go. The air inside smelled like wet stone and candle wax. Rows of wooden pews stretched toward a small altar draped in gray cloth. It wasn't dust that covered everything, it was ash, a fine layer of it like snow after a fire. My footsteps left prints as I moved down the aisle. Behind the altar stood a series of mannequins dressed in what looked like priest robes. Their hands were folded in prayer, their faces blank, mouths slightly open. Someone had drawn black circles over where their eyes should have been. I whispered, "Hello?" just to hear a sound that wasn't my own breathing. Somewhere in the building, a door creaked. I turned, expecting maybe the wind, but the mannequins' heads had tilted slightly toward me, all of them. My heart thudded hard enough that I could feel it in my neck. I stepped backward, tripping over something, a box half buried in the ash. Inside were dozens of Polaroids. Every one of them showed the same thing, the church interior shot from different angles, but always empty. Except in the last few, where a shape began to appear near the altar, tall, thin, blurred like smoke in human form. The final photo was black, with a faint white outline in the corner that looked disturbingly like my hand. I heard movement again. Slow, dragging footsteps coming from behind the altar. The mannequins' robes began to sway, though there was no wind. The ash shifted on the floor, swirling toward the aisle as if something was breathing just beneath the surface. I backed toward the entrance, but the door wasn't there anymore. Just wall, bare wood, nailed tight. Then a voice from somewhere behind the altar whispered my name.
clear, calm, like someone I knew. I froze. It said it again, louder. I took one step. The sound it made wasn't a crack. It was wet, like muscle tearing instead of wood. I ran, kicked at the boards where the door had been until something gave way. Light spilled in, gray and weak, but enough to see my car still waiting outside. When I finally got in and slammed the door shut, I saw ash smeared across the passenger seat. And sitting in it, perfectly centered, was another Polaroid, freshly developed, still warm. It showed the church interior again, but now, in the front pew, there was someone sitting. Me.
By dusk, the fog had thickened again, crawling low along the ground like it had weight. The town was awake now, if that's what you could call it. Lights flickered on in every window as I passed, one after another, like the place had been waiting for the cue. I stopped at an intersection, the same intersection I'd already driven through 3 times. Only now, there were figures standing at each corner. They looked like people, sort of. Ordinary clothes, jeans, flannel shirts, dresses that could have come from any thrift store. But their faces, something was wrong. Like someone had painted features onto a mannequin and the paint hadn't dried right. Too smooth, too symmetrical. One of them stepped forward, a man with a straw hat and a smile that didn't move with his words. "Evening, traveler. Lost your way?" His voice was slow and syrupy, like he was imitating friendliness. "I'm just trying to get to Route 19, I said, gripping the steering wheel. "Can you point me that way?" The man nodded, still smiling. Behind him, the others began to move closer, silent, synchronized. Their shoes didn't make sound on the pavement. "You passed it already," he said, "but you always do." "What?" His head tilted slightly, the smile widening too far. "You already been through here once, maybe twice." Something cold crawled up my spine. "Look, I just need directions," I forced my voice steady. The man leaned close to my window. His breath fogged the glass, but when I looked at him straight on, his eyes were empty. Not blank, but hollow, like there was light behind them and nothing to reflect it. From the corner of my eye, I saw movement. The others circling, slow and methodical, whispering in unison. The words blurred together, but one phrase kept repeating. "He's back. He's back. He's back." That's when the man in the hat pressed his hand against the hood of my car. His fingers left streaks like soot. "You should go," he said softly, "before the others remember you." Then, just like that, they all turned at once and walked away, vanishing into the fog. I sat there for a long time, engine humming, trying to process what had just happened. The road ahead was clear again, if it ever hadn't been. I hit the gas. In the rearview mirror, for a split second, I saw them standing in a perfect circle where I'd been parked, all facing inward. And in the center of that circle, something was moving, slowly standing up. It looked exactly like me. The next turn brought me to higher ground. The fog thinned just enough for me to see the outline of a hill at the edge of town, crowned by a single house. Big, old, wooden, the kind that creaks even when there's no wind. I didn't plan to stop, but something about it pulled me in. Maybe it was the faint light in the upstairs window. Maybe it was that I knew the place. I didn't want to, but I did.
The driveway was lined with dead trees, their branches tangled like arms. My headlights cut across the porch, and for a split second I thought I saw a child sitting on the steps, knees pulled up, face hidden. But when I blinked, there was nothing. Inside, the air was cold, dry, untouched. Dust covered everything except one small table by the door. On it lay a stack of newspaper clippings, all about a car crash on Route 19. I didn't need to read the names. I already knew them. Mom, Dad, me, listed as missing. My hand started to shake. I remembered flashes, the rain, the headlights, my mother screaming my name. Then darkness. Upstairs, a floorboard creaked. I looked up, heart hammering. The light in the window flickered, then went out. When I turned toward the door to leave, there was something new on the table. A Polaroid. It showed the same house, same angle, but the upstairs window was glowing again, and someone was standing there, watching. Me. The air in that house felt heavier the longer I stayed. Dust floated like ash in the beam of my flashlight, swirling every time I moved. Somewhere upstairs, an old radio hummed faintly. No station, just static mixed with a low, pulsing sound. I followed it. The staircase moaned under my weight, every step slower than the last. At the top, I found a narrow hallway lined with family photos. Only the faces were scratched out, every single one. The sound led me to a bedroom at the end. Inside, an old reel-to-reel tape recorder sat on a dresser, still turning. I didn't touch it, but the reels spun on their own, the tape looping endlessly through empty air. Then a voice came through, my voice. If you're hearing this, you didn't make it out. I froze. The static swelled, then faded again. You keep driving. You think you're leaving, but the town's not on any map anymore. It's what's left after the crash. I took a step back. The tape clicked and rewound by itself. You left us on that road. Now we're bringing you back. The tape snapped, unraveling across the floor like veins. And somewhere above, the radio started playing again, this time with my own voice humming along. I followed the sound. It led me back upstairs, past the photos, past the flickering light in the hall, until I reached a door I swore hadn't been there before. It was painted white, or maybe gray, it was hard to tell, and cold to the touch. When I turned the handle, something inside clicked softly, like a lock being opened from the other side. The room was small, windowless. Every wall was covered in mirrors, some cracked, some perfectly clear, all facing inward. My reflection multiplied in every direction, hundreds of me staring back, pale and confused. At first they moved the way I did. Then they didn't. One reflection tilted its head when I didn't. Another blinked too slowly. The one closest to the center smiled. Not wide, not friendly, just enough to show I wasn't in control anymore. I stepped closer, and the air turned colder. Breath fogged against the glass, but not from my mouth, from theirs. Then, all at once, every reflection raised a hand and pointed straight at me. The glass began to tremble, ripples running through the surface like water. My own face started to blur, melting into something smoother, emptier. I heard whispers again, 100 voices layered over mine, repeating the same phrase in perfect unison. You've been here before. I stumbled back, tripping over something on the floor, another Polaroid.
It showed me standing exactly where I was now, surrounded by reflections. But in the photo, my eyes were gone, just two black hollows, like burn marks. I dropped it, turned to run, but the door was gone, only more mirrors stretching endlessly, every one of them grinning. Then one reflection reached out. The glass didn't crack, it bent, and before I could move, its hand brushed my shoulder, warm, human. That's when the lights went out. When I opened my eyes, I was back in the car, engine humming, rain against the windshield, same road stretching out ahead like nothing had happened. For a second, I almost believed it had been a dream, but my hands were shaking, and on the passenger seat lay the Polaroid from the mirror room, the one where my eyes were missing. Only now, the photo looked newer, fresh. I turned the key off. The engine kept running. Outside, the fog was thinner, and I could see the town in the distance, quiet again like it had gone back to sleep. I told myself I'd just drive, straight through, no stopping, no looking back. 10 minutes later, the gas station appeared on the right. Same humming sign, same flickering lights. I gripped the wheel tighter. No way. But the sign didn't say, "Last gas for 30 miles" anymore. It said, "Welcome back." Someone was standing under the awning, the old man, cigarette glowing faintly between his fingers. He smiled as I slowed down, like he'd been expecting me. "Pump 3's working," he said. I looked. There were only two. I hit the gas. The car lurched forward, tires screeching on wet asphalt. But after a few minutes, another sign loomed through the mist. The same one, the same station, the same man. He waved this time. "Pump 3's working." He repeated, louder. I didn't stop, just kept driving, heart hammering, tears blurring the road. The radio clicked on by itself, my voice whispering through the static. "You can't leave what's already dead." The road curved, dipped, then rose again. And there it was, the town, the motel, the church without a cross, the house on the hill, light in the window. I slammed the brakes and stumbled out of the car, screaming into the fog, "What do you want from me?" Something answered, all around me, in 1,000 overlapping voices. Mine, the locals, the old man's. "We already have you." I turned. My car was gone. The fog had solidified into walls, gray, endless, and in the distance I saw headlights approaching. My own car, my own face behind the wheel, smiling. The engine hum never stopped after that. Some nights, when the fog rolls in, I still hear it, the steady idle of a car that never runs out of gas.